Dr. Andrew Harms, former president of the Australian Dental Association's South Australia branch, realised more than a decade ago that something was terribly wrong with water fluoridation. Since then, he has appeared on programs such as Today Tonight to voice his concerns, travelled with Dr. Paul Connacht around Australia, and given numerous guest speaker presentations on the issue. Dr. Harms was one of only 2 Australians to attend the 28th International Society for Fluoride Research Conference in 2008 in Toronto, Canada. The other was Firewater's production manager, Anna Michalik.
When I did read the science about 10 years ago, I started to get serious concerns. And my concerns were based around the fact that I didn't realise that we weren't using natural fluoride, so-called natural fluoride, or calcium fluoride, but we were using a common industrial waste. This industrial waste is mainly coming from the superphosphate industry, but also recently from industrial waste from China, of which we don't have a really good idea of the origins. I didn't realise that fluoridation involved dumping about 700 tonnes of industrial waste, mainly from the superphosphate industry, into Adelaide's water supply. And it's not a pharmaceutical grade, it's an industrial grade. Some of the contaminants are aluminium, mercury, low levels of uranium, beryllium, cadmium. And this has quite shocked me because there are no long-term studies looking at the effect of dosing millions of people with hundreds of tonnes of chemicals every year.
Perhaps you might just give us a little bit of information about the book that you're holding.
Yes, look, there's a fantastic new book co-authored by Professor Paul Connacht, The Case Against Fluoride, and this book is just fantastic. And I'm going to trawl through it several times, but I commend everybody to get a copy of this and have a thorough read. The other book that's very good is The Fluoride Deception by Chris Bryson. And that was the book that showed the skullduggery of the American government, the United States government, and Alcoa and other industrial groups in pushing fluoridation to the community in the 40s and 50s. Chris Bryson's book was my turning point, and when I saw the extent of the fraud and the funny money that went to validate fluoridation, I realised there was a problem.
This is Insitec at Geelong, where they make the fluoroacetic acid. They're putting in my local water supplies in Geelong. They claim that this is all good for our children, and I do not want this stuff being drunk by my children, especially my disabled child with compromised kidneys.
This is Jessica, Scott's daughter. Her father refused to pay for silica fluoride poisoned water supplied by his local water supplier Barwon Water under government orders. Jessica is a cancer survivor. Following chemotherapy and her illness, Jessica's kidneys are severely compromised. Her overall disposition is such that she is highly sensitive to all dietary and environmental toxins. Scott is now being threatened with actions by authorities attempting to force him to pay for poisoned water that could harm his daughter. Water that contains a medication to which he did not give his consent. Water containing a medication to which he did not consent to on behalf of his children. Water containing a medication never properly tested for safety for long-term human administration. An industrial-grade Schedule 7 poison laced with toxic heavy metal contaminants, scrubbed from the pollution smokestacks of industry.
My story started, especially being interested in this 4 years ago when my daughter was diagnosed with a tumour. Before that I wasn't active in anything. I spent 1 year while she went through hell getting chemo and radiotherapy. Out of that she lost her eyesight, some of her mobility, some of her IQ, and her kidneys and other bodily organs have been left damaged. she's a happy girl, but we still have to look after her 24/7. Since they put fluoride in our water, I've had to look that up, ever wary of any sort of toxins in my daughter's diet. And after a lot of educating myself, I have come to the conclusion, just on the facts and the science, that I cannot let my daughter drink this stuff. It's not only not what we consider good fluoride, it also has other toxins like lead, cadmium, and there's a whole list. And it's been verified by Australian television that this is in our water. The government's doing this. They've omitted facts. They've lied to us, and I cannot let my water or any other of my children drink this toxic soup that they're claiming is beneficial for their teeth. Before that, I was blissfully unaware of what fluoride was. It was in the toothpaste, and that was all. And I believed my government, but after this, I've no faith whatsoever in either my government or the people pushing this. In my point of view, they should have their licences, their medical licences taken off them. They've lied to us. They sit there with cheesy grins. I believe truly that they know they're lying to us. And after viewing the facts of fluoride, or the fluoroacetic acid, I have to seriously come to the conclusion that this has been put in for totally other reasons, mainly so that our industry can get rid of their toxic waste cheaply, because they can't dump it anywhere. It costs them millions, as I've found out through my own research. And I think there's some backroom deals going on, and they're just filling our water with this crap, filling our children with this crap.
Here we have a state which says you must do this, you must drink this, you must eat this, we know it's good for you, and yet no one checks, no one takes responsibility. So what's happening there? You have to take the responsibility yourself for something someone else is doing to you. That's a crime.
How does
You
that
have
make
no
you
choice.
feel? How does that make you feel as a parent?
Oh, terrible, because I want to protect my children. I want to give them every opportunity to be healthy and happy and functional in the community. And, you know, I love them dearly. It makes me feel really helpless.
Well, first, it's the duty of any government to have clean air, clean water, and basics for health. And I feel that if you're going to medicate a population, the first thing you should not do is add anything to the water supply. The water supply should be clean. We put, as far as I can see, we put a little bit of fluoride in the water, and that is considered a medication. The dentists often talk about having fluoride much the same way as you'd have a bleach or chlorine in the water. And this, of course, is just a nonsense. What happens is that you put the fluoride in the water to treat people, whereas you put the chlorine in the water to treat the water. Those are two amazingly different concepts. And what you find in the dental health section is they try to muddy the water using those two analogies. I'm really passionate about the fact that babies under 6 months should have absolutely no fluoride. This is a time when the young brain is growing. It's a time when the blood-brain barrier is not yet solid. It's a time when these babies are at a huge inclination for an insult. And this is why when over recent times even the Lancet paper have suggested that fluoridated water should be actually considered as a toxic element. And I think there's a good reason for that. 1 in 6 kids these days have a problem with brain function, have a problem with behavior. whether it's ADHD, whether it's autism or whatever it is, young brains are very, very apt to have a problem with any sort of a chemical, with any sort of an enzyme inhibitor. And fluoride is an enzyme inhibitor, and this is why I'm passionately against putting fluoride in the water.
With mothers, they have been misled because they have been told that it's quite safe to add fluoridated water to infant formula, and this is completely wrong. The amount of fluoride in fluoridated water, there is a tiny amount of fluoride in breast milk. It's like 0.004 parts per million. It's a minute amount. The amount of fluoride in fluoridated water is 250 times the amount that would be in breast milk. So nature's actually trying to keep babies away from fluoride. But mothers haven't been told this. The American Dental Association in 2006 started warning that if babies were going to be fed with infant formula reconstituted with tap water, it would be wise to use non-fluoridated tap water. Mothers, the Australian public, have been deliberately misled by fluoridation promoters in Australia.
The first thing is that the mother's breasts appear to reduce the fluoride levels, and she provides milk with approximately 0.013 milligrams per litre of fluoride in it. If you then think about the replacement of that with a formula and you use a 1 milligram per litre fluoridated water from the tap and allow for a little bit of evaporation during the heating of that water in the formula, you're dosing the baby at 100 times the natural level. Now, that bothers me because there seemed to be no problem with the level that was in the female breasts before fluoridation, and in fact the New Zealand and Australian authorities accepted that the level in the female breast were at 0.013 milligrams per litre was suitable and the proper level. But when you go to the extremes of putting fluoride in everybody's water, then there are no exclusions to who gets it, and in this case the infants get about 100 times more than they would if they were being breastfed. The body certainly didn't evolve to be exposed to those levels, so it would be my opinion that it was the wrong thing to do.
Dr. John Colquhoun, a New Zealand dental researcher, states, quote, "Common sense should tell us that if a poison circulating in a child's body can damage the tooth-forming cells, then other harm is also likely," unquote. Australian authorities dismiss dental fluorosis as just a cosmetic effect. Do you believe that this is an irresponsible position to take whilst Australian children are being toxically overexposed to fluoride?
Totally irresponsible. Totally irresponsible. Why should they have more fluoride? They've already had toxic doses. Who says they need it? Who says it's not already in their bodies? And why aren't they being tested for fluoride in their bodies? And that can be done. You know, and that's what we've been asking for in this community. Test our community first. We may already have fluoride. You're telling us we need it. How about find out if we already have it? And we're definitely being exposed to it on a daily basis.